I just want to identify a gap because you're talking about insurance. I was caregiver for my mom. She had cancer. Every time she was admitted into the hospital, she would tell me right before I'd leave, she goes, "Tony, I've had a good life." Because I didn't know if I was going to see her again, how she was going to respond to that chemo treatment. And so her parents were, they ran funeral homes when she was growing up. So she was very comfortable with death and dying, and she knew that making these tough decisions, I needed to hear something. And it was, "Tony, I've had a good life." A gap in our system is around hospice residential care. Because my mom was in an assisted living facility, she needed more care than they can provide. We did not want to put her in a skilled nursing where they were short of staff, half of the staff temporary workers. There was an opening in our local hospice residential home, and we are very glad to hear that. But by that time, my mom had spent down all of her assets in order to transition onto medical assistance. So we were told as a family, it's $300 a day out of pocket to pay for that hospice residential home. And so just to mention, there was legislation that I asked my local representative to draft up, and my senator supported it, drew it up. It did pass in both the House and the Senate, but in the conference committee it got X'd out because I was one person, asking for medical assistance to cover that out-of-pocket cost so people could go to dedicated hospice residential homes that are, two staff for however many patients. It's better staffed. So that's something that I'm hoping that there'll be more state support, because a lot of people are suffering, and my mom ended up dying in a skilled facility. She was all alone. So I just think that out of respect for my mom and how she made it easy for me, I want to carry that forward and make it easier for others. So again, medical assistance does not cover residential hospice costs that are thrown on a family that are out of pocket.
And I think what you're talking about is really the living expenses. The hospice itself is paid for. And hospice care is about 5%. And explaining that to families when their person comes on board, that's part of my job, and families are always surprised. They think, I'm gonna call hospice in, they're gonna be here, they're gonna be doing their thing, it's gonna be great, I'm gonna get all this help. And hospice care is helpful. It is. I wouldn't wanna die without it. I think the misnomer that people have is that there's going to be somebody sitting with them 24/7. And when you think about a 24-hour day, 5%, it's maybe 1 hour out of that day. And that 1 hour out of that day in 7 days can be a music therapist, a chaplain, a skilled nursing visit, a massage visit. So with my mom, when she was dying, we had hospice care, and we had Fairview, and we ended up hiring in someone to be with her during the day so that I could go to work, and my brother could go to work, and my daughter and my niece could go to work. But then we took nights, so I had 3 nights a week. And then my daughter had 1, my niece had 1, my brother had 2. So we just did it that way so that we could continue, but that was $6,000 a month. And so the spend down is relatively fast. And my mother-in-law's currently just got out of TCU. And thank God she's my mother-in-law, because nobody wants me involved. Right? Because it's one of these family things that they were talking about on the first panel, where everybody's trying to give an opinion, but nobody wants to do the work. And so I've offered, but nobody wants me in, which is fine. But the thing is that this family, my wife's family, just doesn't understand what they're going to have to do, and they don't want to do it. And so I talked to them about what spend down looks like. And if you put your mom into a skilled nursing facility or into an assisted living, be prepared for $6,000 to $9,000 a month, depending on what the cares are that you need, if you're not willing to do it as a family at home. And then it was like, oh God, we only have enough for a year. Okay. Well, you better wait to put her in then, right? Because that gets to be the dilemma. So just to be, and to be clear, it's heartbreaking for families to think that it's going to be 24/7, and it's not. So then they really have to scramble. And so I want you to hear that as family units, as caregivers, rally your troops so that you really know what you're doing when it does become end of life for your person.
I just want to say as well, I completely agree with what you're saying, that there is that barrier. And like you're saying too, you know, people do expect hospice to be that 24/7 in the home with you when it's that intermittent care throughout the week. But I still want to acknowledge the barrier that there is, and especially when the vast majority of people don't have the finances to cover those sorts of things. So I too hope that we see some changes in that realm to be able to provide that end of life care, because we're all getting there someday, and we all hope for the best for our loved ones.